Today we begin with the first phase of the feminine, the phase most misunderstood, most idolized, and most feared. This is the fire of the maiden. We are not speaking here of the innocent girl, the untouched prophetess, or the virginal seeress. That sacred archetype deserves its own treatment and will return to her in due time. What we speak of now is the young woman whose power has already awakened, whose presence draws eyes, stir ambition, and calls the masculine to rise. She is not yet mother, not yet wife, and not yet queen. She is still untethered, still seeking, still radiant in her raw, formative fire. This phase is not domestic, it is not ordered, it is not bound by duty. It is instinctive, fierce, unapologetically alive. Her value in this phase is not in what she builds, but in what she awakens. She is the call to greatness, the spark that ignites purpose, the presence that challenges men to become more than they are. Her power lies not in submission or sacrifice, but in judgment. Judgment that is still young but already potent. She sees, she reacts, and then she chooses. In myth, this force is embodied in Freya, not merely a goddess of love and fertility, as later poets tried to frame her, but a summoner of souls, a chooser of the slain. She rides in the battle to judge the worthy. She weeps golden tears for what she values. She carries both beauty and wrath in equal measure. She does not ask to be protected, she demands to be answered. And her presence, whether in the battlefield of myth or the eyes of a young woman in the modern world, compels a man to straighten, to strive, to rise. This is not passive femininity. It is not the quiet of the hearth or the wisdom of the crone. It is the fire that precedes those things. It is dangerous because it is untamed. And if that fire is never given shape, it becomes destructive. It burns through homes. It burns through men. It consumes before it creates. That's why this phase must eventually give way to maturity, not suppression, but transformation. When the fire meets the stone, when the radiant energy of the maiden is met by the structure and stability of the masculine, the hearth is born. The fire still burns, but now it warms, now it sustains. But in the early phase, this fire must be free. The feminine cannot become the queen without first becoming the maiden. It is her unformed radiance, her selective gaze, her untamed desire for something worthy that calls the masculine out of passivity. Freya does not need the warrior to flatter her. She demands he be excellent. She does not bend for the man who cannot endure her fire. She is the trial, and only the strong will remain standing. This is the danger of the maiden, but also her divine role. She is the proving ground. Without her, the man stays asleep. The boy stays a boy. She is the spark that forces him to become. Every culture once knew this. They remembered it in story and song. They knew that before the feminine becomes the vessel of life, she had to become the flame that tested it. And that flame still burns in every young woman who carries within her the capacity to judge, to choose, to stir, and to shape the world around her. Not by command, but by presence. This is the first phase of the sacred feminine, not to be feared, not to be worshipped, but to be understood. Because without the maiden's fire, nothing great ever begins. The maiden's fire does not disappear. It is not smothered. It is not broken. It is joined. Joined to strength, joined to form, joined to stone. The young woman once lived beneath her father's roof, whose fire danced with dangerous beauty and untested desire, now becomes the keeper of a hearth, her own. This is not a demotion. It is not a loss of power or freedom. It is maturity through union. Because when fire meets stone, a miracle happens. The wild becomes centered, the radiant becomes radiating, the flicker becomes warmth, sustained, reliable, and life-giving. This is the hearth, and it is more than a domestic symbol. It is the spiritual axis of the household, the still point around which tribal life turns. It is where food is made, where stories are passed, where sons learn courage and daughters learn wisdom. The hearth is the center of the First Nation, the family. In this phase, the woman does not become passive, she becomes sovereign. She is no longer under her father's protection. She is no longer ruled by the instincts of youth. She becomes an architect of order, one who chooses what is welcomed and what is not, who sets the rhythm of meals, of customs, of memory. Her agency is no longer expressed through motion or novelty. It is expressed through stability, discernment, and discipline. This is not the freedom to wander. It is the power to shape the very space where life is cultivated. But here is the truth most forget. The hearth does not shine by fire alone. It is the stone, the masculine form, that makes it a hearth at all. Without the stone, the fire spreads outward and consumes. With the stone, it becomes centered, anchored in place, directed toward life. The masculine does not extinguish the fire. He reflects it inward, toward the home, the tribe, the future. He gives it shape and purpose. He becomes the wall around which her warmth is gathered, the shield that allows her to radiate without burning, the form that makes her flame generative, not destructive. And it is this sacred bond, flame and form, passion and strength, that produces not constant happiness, but something far more enduring. Stability and contentment. Too many young couples believe happiness is the foundation of marriage. But happiness is seasonal. It rises and falls like the weather. It cannot carry weight. It cannot hold the roof when storms come. The hearth is not measured by how often it sparks joy. It is measured by how well it endures the winter, by how faithfully it warms those who return to it, by how deeply it roots the family in place. Because without contentment, fire burns wild, and without structure, it flickers out. This is the wisdom that built civilizations. This is the memory we've lost. The Greeks had Hestia, goddess of the hearth, center of every temple and every home. The Norse had named no hearth goddess, but they understood the principle. They remembered it in Frigg, wife of Odin, queen of Asgard. Not only as consort, not merely as caretaker, but a seeress who foresaw the fate of the gods. A guardian who remained when men rode off to war, and the sovereign center who held the family and the nation together. Frigg was not background, she was foundation. She did not fight on the front line because she was the reason the front line existed. The hearth she kept was not made of stone and flame alone. It was built from memory, foresight, order, and the courage to remain. This is the second phase of the sacred feminine, the fire that endures, the flame that feeds, the woman who becomes the axis of the home. This is not submission, it is mutual respect, mutual necessity. The wife holds no spear, but she governs nonetheless, and the man who builds without her at his side will find his house cold, his fire uneven, his strength brittle. Because the hearth is not built by stone alone, the fire must be chosen, it must be cared for, it must be earned. And when it is, when the masculine strength and the feminine fire are joined in trust, they create something stronger than either could alone. A center, not just of a house, but of a world. She was once the maiden, then she became the bride. Now, she will become something greater still, the axis around which life itself begins to turn. She does not seek attention, she does not need to. Her power is no longer radiant like flame, it is rooted. It is quiet but total. She is mother. In the old world, motherhood was not sentimentalized. It was not reduced to softness or celebrated only for aesthetic virtue. The mother was sacred because of what she bore, because of what she endured, and because of what she built. She bled to bring life. She rose in the night. She kept the sickness away, the fear away, the collapse away. And above all, she gave meaning to the Father's labor. What good is conquest? What good is war? What good is the stone wall, the gold crown, the hard-won peace, if there are no children behind it, if there is no home waiting to be warned? This is where Frigg stands, not merely as the wife of Odin, but as the soul of the tribe's future. She is the one who stays when others ride off. She is the one who sees what is coming. She is the one who weaves what will remain. In the old tongue, her name, Frio, is tied to love, but not love as a sentiment or desire, but love as a bond, love as duty, love as the law that governs the household, guards the name, and grows the people. Frigg does not shout, she does not charge into battle, but she governs with a strength that outlasts steel. She does not inspire with spectacle, she rules by presence, by order, by cultural memory, by sacrifice. And it is from her that the archetype of the mother takes its full shape. Just as fire becomes a hearth through its union with stone, a woman becomes a mother not simply through age or biology, but through meaning made real, through sacrifice given shape and love put to discipline. She is not the next phase of the wife. She is the completion of the hearth's power. She fills it with lineage. She transforms the household into a people. And in this role, her agency does not diminish, it deepens. Not in terms of personal license, but in civilizational reach. She begins to shape not just her own home, but the souls of the next generation. She tells the children the old tales. She sings them songs that carry memory from one generation to the next, and in her voice, the tribe remembers who it is. She becomes the voice that teaches, the one who says, "We do not lie, we do not dishonor, we do not forget who we are." Her love becomes law. Her beauty becomes gravity. Her sacrifice, slowly, daily, unseen, becomes the authority that holds the home together. This is why Frigg's court matters. Why the ancients gave her companions, attendants, and the keepers of her house. Because the sacred feminine was never a singular shape. It unfolded into many forms, each carrying a distinct fragment of ancestral wisdom. Like the Greeks before them, the Germanic peoples understood. The mother holds multitudes. She is not one goddess, she is a choir of roles, voiced through Frigg's attendants, each representing part of the knowledge she would pass on to her daughters. This living preservation of feminine energy, this court of inherited wisdom, was one of the most advanced expressions of value in the ancient world. Not an emotional reaction to suffering, but a deliberate philosophy of remembrance. Because the tribes knew, no culture survives without mothers. No tribe endures without women who pass down more than genes, who pass down meaning. The mother was not placed on a pedestal, nor was she forgotten. She was honored where it mattered most, in lineage, in the stories, in the eyes of her children when they repeated her words to theirs. She was never meant to be a symbol, she was meant to be a pillar. And if a tribe has no strong mothers, no memory keepers, no truth tellers, no warmth bringers, then no matter how brave its men, it will fall. Because the sacred feminine is not merely beauty or fertility. It is rooted sacrifice, made radiant through endurance. And the man who builds for her must understand. She is not a reward. She is not a decoration. She is the one who makes the tribe real. The crone is the memory that refuses to die. She no longer bears children. She no longer stokes the hearth. She no longer lies beside the king. And yet, she is feared. Not for her strength, not for her beauty, but because she remembers. In the world of men, where kingdoms rise and fall, where sons forget the songs of their fathers, and where comfort devours custom, she becomes the final guardian of meaning. She is the last temple, the last archive, the last witness. We do not speak of her often, not because she is irrelevant, but because she reminds us of what we try to forget. She is age, she is mortality, she is consequence. But in the old stories, she was honored, not placed on a pedestal, but given a place of real power within the court of Frigg. She was not decoration, she was function. Her name may have changed with time, her face may have aged, but her role remained eternal. to carry the knowledge no man could, to speak truths that others were too young or too proud to say. When the old Germanic tales described the attendants of Frigg, they did not present a gallery of passive handmaidens. They described a living philosophy, a constellation of phases and archetypes that cannot be contained in a single image of womanhood. Frigg's court was a circle of wisdom. Each attendant was an extension of her. Each one represented a facet of the completed feminine. Together, they revealed a fundamental truth: that the sacred feminine is not a role to be filled, but a cycle to be completed. And in that cycle, the Crone is the final phase, the phase that outlasts even the queen. She is the one who guides the younger mothers. She is the one who sees the signs before they appear. She is the one who tells the truth when no one wants to hear it. Her power is not the power of kings. It is the power of glaciers, slow, immovable, and impossible to deceive. In many myths, this function was not granted to a goddess of battle, but to a keeper of fate, the Norns, the seers. These are not just characters, they are echoes of the Crone spirit, not merely wise, but anchored beyond time. And when she speaks, even Odin listens. Her presence reminds us that power is not only found in action, it is also found in memory and silence, and keeping the old ways alive long enough for the tribe to return to them. She remembers the names of the dead. She remembers the vows that once held the tribe together. She remembers the price that was paid to survive the long winters, and she refuses to let the living forget. She is not nostalgic. She is not clinging to the past. She is preserving the future. She tells the stories. She sings the old songs. She carries the traditions that no longer live in books, but only in hearts. This is not symbolic. It is essential. It is not reactionary. It is not ornamental. It was philosophical. Because memory is not a mood. It is the lifeblood of culture. It is the sacred thread of survival, passed through story, silence, presence, and song. Most today don't know her as the Crone. They know her as Grandma. The woman whose hands were worn and steady, whose eyes held both softness and strength, whose voice still echoes in our hearts long after she's gone. I loved my grandmother deeply. I miss her to this day. Her absence is still felt. Not because she was perfect, but because she was present, but because she carried the old ways in her bones and gave them to us, one story, one meal, one quiet act of love at a time. In Indo-European cosmology, this is the feminine rooted in the soil. Not the chaos of the devouring mother, but the ordered memory of the Earth Mother. Not the one who consumes out of fear, but the one who anchors out of love. We will speak more of that distinction in Act 3, but here, at the summit of the sacred feminine, we glimpse her shadow. She is not merely the past, she is a warning. She is the voice that says, if you forget what I remember, you will lose everything I gave you. And she is also the hope. Because when the men forget who they are, when the suns falter, when the fire burns low, there is still one voice in the tribe that remembers their beginning. She is the fire's last ember. She is the song that survives the silence. She is the one who sees the whole cycle because she has lived it. And in her eyes, the Valkyrie still walks, not as a maiden, not as a wife, but as the mother of mothers, a towering presence in the hall of the wise.